All right, day 6 of practice has concluded. There's a lot to take away. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. Shout out to everyone who watched SNL today, which you can observe Monday through Friday at 4 o'clock. Practice tomorrow. Then there'll be an off day. They'll practice Friday. They'll practice Saturday. No, they won't practice Saturday. They'll go to the Greenbrier. Yeah, they will practice Saturday. They practice Saturday morning, and then they go to the Greenbrier. A little confusing. I'll be in West Virginia. I will arrive on Sunday, but that is the plan. Biggest takeaways from the day before we get into the in-depth obs. Takeaway number one, and I put a question mark at the end of this statement because I think it should be taken with a grain of salt. And I also feel that there's kind of some hesitation and some reluctancy to completely buy into this. But I think the last 2 days we've seen improvement from the Texans offensive line. Now, does that mean that it's a really good offensive line? No, but I think since the pads have come on, the Texans offensive line has undoubtedly improved. And there have been some problems with procedure, which we'll touch on. But as far as the overall blocking, the pads have done the offensive line well, and the protection has been better. Is it solid protection? No, but it's a lot better than it was before the pads came on. So the Texans offensive line is improving. That's the biggest takeaway, number one. Takeaway number two, I think the starting offensive line is shaping up as well. And you can kind of see this just based on the rotations. But Caserio was also on. He was on with Sean Pendergast. And Sean Pendergast told me that he said this, that I guess he said they want to kind of figure out the starting offensive line before the Minnesota preseason game. Well, I'll be damned. That's 10 days from now. That's the Saturday after the West Virginia week. They'll practice in West Virginia Monday through Thursday, and then they'll have a game on Saturday. So you would like to see who the offensive line is. I think it's really clear who the offensive line 4 of the 5 starters are going to be, I think. And then I think there's one spot that has some competition. I'll elaborate on that when we do the breakdowns. But I think 4 out of 5 offensive line spots pretty much set. So that's not, I don't know if you feel good about it, but and quite frankly, the competition, I don't know who's better either. When it comes to that, it's just one spot, a familiar face and a new face that might give it away. Next takeaway, and I'm going to go ahead and give this guy his second consecutive dog of the day. I'm a dog. Now, I never thought this guy was like not a bad football player, especially with what we've seen from him. There have been highs, there have been lows, but I never really looked at him as someone who was perhaps like that. Derek Stingley, he's like that. I think Kamari Lassiter, probably like that. Will Anderson, he's like that. Daniil Hunter, he's like that. I thought this guy was just a really good football player. Maybe it's just he's practicing good, and we in here talking about practice. But Kalen Bullock,
we in here talking about practice.
He might just be like that. Another interception today of CJ Stroud. He's hitting dudes. He's breaking up passes. He's playing with confidence. He made the most impressively athletic play of the day today that kind of went under the radar, which we'll talk about when we go through the practice. But Kalen Bullock might just be a dude. And he looks a lot more comfortable. He looks a lot better. You talk about iron sharpening iron. I don't think there's much of a better example than Derek Stingley to Kamari Lassiter and Kamari Lassiter to Kalen Bullock. And you can maybe say Kalen Bullock to Kamari Lassiter. We focus a lot on Lassiter, but he might just be a dude. Like Kalen Bullock might just be a dude, which completely changes stuff if you have two dudes that are like that. Not a good football player, but like that. I think Kalen Bullock could very well be like that. HDAV Traveler on the soup. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Good evening to you, my friend. Out there in Austin, riding around in motorcycles, popping wheelies. The next takeaway that I have from today, I think there's a lot of opportunity at running back for the Texans. I think there's a lot of opportunity at running back. And I know we've talked a lot about Nick Chubb. And I just want to make this clear, if I haven't made it clear enough. Just the fact Nick Chubb is out there running around on a football field after the injury that he had 2 years ago and the fact he broke his foot last year and is at the age where running backs typically fall off. That's impressive. That's impressive. Like Nick Chubb is not going to be his old self. We all know that. It's impossible. That would be impossible without the injuries. So he's not going to be his old self. With that said, the guys behind Nick Chubb probably need to be looked at a little bit more. Woody Marks, he is showing some things in 2 out of 3 phases. Woody Marks, he's easily the smoothest receiver that they have out of the backfield, which is what they drafted him for. Really not getting a lot of opportunity to run between the tackles, but probably need to see a little bit of Woody Marks. Jawar Jordan looks a lot faster. British Brooks is moving better than he did last year, and he's doing a lot of things. And J.J. Taylor, not a ton of intrigue there, but J.J. Taylor probably needs some looks. So we need to see what these other running backs are made of. Maybe some first-team reps or something. Maybe like an off day for Nick Chubb, whatever. But there's a lot of opportunity at running back. And quite frankly, these other guys kind of just stick out a little bit more than Nick Chubb, if we're being honest and basing it on what we're talking about. Now, the question I do have, and I'll save this for when we're breaking down practice, but there is a question I have about a guy who I thought would be on the roster until death did them part. It seemed like he was just a survivor and he was going to be on the team no matter what. We'll get to that in a sec, but let's get to the practice observations and the practice breakdowns here in the locker room. So Jalen Petrie and Arthur Mallet, however you want to say it, we're back. Mallet was actually in a red non-contact jersey, so you did not see him really practicing, but Jalen Petrie was back. Also in attendance at practice today, Drew Rosenhaus, a.k.a. hashtag next question. Drew Rosenhaus was there. He actually walked over to the area. John McClain and him know each other, so they kind of embraced, and he asked John how he was doing. But Drew Rosenhaus was in attendance. He has a couple of clients on the Texans. He has Nico Collins, and he has Tommy Townsend. I didn't know he represented Tommy Townsend. I know Tommy Townsend's a Florida guy. Drew Rosenhaus is based in the state of Florida, so that might make sense. But Tommy Townsend and Drew Rosenhaus spent a lot of time talking after practice. So whatever. And Tommy Townsend actually had a pretty good day today. So there was a special teams drill that was pretty cool where they throw the ball to an offensive player. He kind of loops around, and then the special teams player or the linebacker, safety, whatever, they chase him down. It was a cool drill. Nothing really stuck out. Pretty smooth. Although Nick Chubb did drop one of the passes, and he also accidentally got pushed to the ground by Azeez Al-Shire. It was a clear accident, but you saw Chubb fall, and then you saw him drop a pass on the next rep. But outside of that, you run towards the ball, you catch it, and then the trailer follows you. It was a pretty cool drill. They didn't do it very long though. They've had like quick special teams periods the last couple of days. I don't know if that's just a pad thing or what, but they did that. Indy, aka Independence. Jakob Johnson is still doing tight end and fullback things. So you have Jakob Johnson, who I think's done quite well for himself. Jakob Johnson is he's like tight end 3.5 or 2.5. Like in blocking situations, I would say he's probably a top 3 tight end. In receiving, he's a top 4, and it's pretty damn smooth. And I don't know where they would rank him as far as being blocking tight ends. Like I could easily see them saying he's one of their top 2. So between potentially playing special teams, being the only guy that plays fullback, and also being able to play tight end, I think Jakob Johnson is going to be someone that they're going to consider keeping around in some way, shape, or form. Now, does that mean he makes the original 53? Don't know. I mean, would he get picked up? Would New England pick him up? McDaniels has had him before. Don't know. But Jakob Johnson is he looks every part of a tight end. So the Petrie drills that I always speak of, where Jalen Petrie goes through his routine and then the traditional safeties and the traditional corners go through their routine. It was a little more crowded today. So you had Mallette in the red jersey. You had Petrie, of course. And then you had Miles Bryant and you had D'Angelo Ross lining up in that nickel. Another observation, and I already said this, British Brooks looks a lot faster. Just like in the normal, like the situations where Nick Chubb looks a lot slower and less impressive than the other running backs, British Brooks looks a lot faster than he did last year. So there was that. Then we had a little ROA/Indy. Nico Collins and CJ Stroud. It almost feels like in team that other guys are getting work. And you also have Nico with Stingley on him, which probably it probably makes a little less sense to throw over there. But whenever CJ and Nico are just playing toss, it's just so pretty. And I was talking today, and I said this today on SNL. I've kind of learned my lesson when it comes to like judging Nico Collins practices. And it wasn't like a hard lesson. It's not like a dog going back to the electric fence. But last year, Stephon Diggs was probably the most impressive guy in camp at receiver. Doesn't mean shit when it comes to the wide receivers. So little Nico appreciation there for what the fact that he's just ready to go on game day, except when he's not. Then we had a little group install. This was the quick game. Nothing out of the norm here. Petrie was back to his usual nickel spot. But I anticipated, and we didn't get as much of it as I'd anticipated, but I anticipated that this is going to be a day where they were going to work on the quick game, which I think is going to be a big part of what they do when games matter. But we didn't see it as much. We saw a little in team, but it wasn't a consistent theme. So that early did not end up kind of playing out. Then we get to special teams. And these were some competitive-ass one-on-one special teams drills. Few observations here. I got a handful of observations here. Number one, Jalen Petrie is an absolute stud on special teams. And he does not take it lightly. He might be a big part of this defense, but he loves every bit of playing special teams. And I think you kind of see that throughout the course of a few of the starting players. But he's an absolute stud on special teams. Like pretty much any drill that they run, he's probably one of the examples Frank Ross uses as a perfect rep. British Brooks, absolute tank. He was throwing around whoever was blocking him, and forgive me, I didn't make note of it because my head went to a swivel to what I'm about to talk about. But British Brooks, he was throwing this dude around like a rag doll. And then the goal was to kind of slap the trash can or whatever when you're going full speed on the rep. British Brooks, absolute tank. Woody Marks did a hell of a job blocking Damon Arnett, and Damon Arnett was the only guy who didn't slap the bag. Actually kind of threw him to the ground. And also Woody Marks also in this period did a good job of on coverage against Arnett. So Woody Marks, there was a couple times where you had the staff singing the praises of Woody Marks on special teams, which kind of makes me wonder, like with all these running backs, given the fact that it seems like a possibility that they're just going to give Nick Chubb a spot on the team, like where does Dare fit into this running back room? Especially if Woody Marks can play special teams, and he looks like he can play special teams, like in every area. So the big sales pitches for Dare Gumbawale have been two things. Number one, he's a good pass blocker. And number two, and we're just talking from the 53. I don't know whether you can sneak him through the cracks or what. Number one, he's a good pass blocker. And number two, he's good on special teams. Well, Woody Marks is playing pretty good on special teams, and then they seem to be kind of selling Nick Chubb's pass blocking. Do with that what you will. I just wonder how that fits if they're just going to keep a running back around regardless of performance. Jaden Higgins doesn't need to be playing special teams. He had D'Angelo Ross blow by him. Just catch the ball. And Higgins is pretty good at that. And then Yeast had a really, really Russ Yeast had I think that's his first name. He had a really good period of special teams as well. So he did pretty well for himself if he wants to hang around in some way. He did a good job on special teams and has done all right over the course of camp. So then we go to 7-on-7. Crowd gets excited. We're going traditional 3 linebackers. No nickel yet. CJ Stroud with a rough start. Skip past Hutchinson, and then an interception by Kalen Bullock. Intended for Higgins. Bullock gets in there, gets that INT. Then you had a dump off to Captain Kirk. Davis Mills comes in. Hell of a flag route to Justin Watson, who had a pretty good day today. And then a dump off right side to Xavier Johnson. Then you had a Miles Bryant PBU. Miles Bryant's had a really good last 4 days. He's done very well for himself. Another guy who can probably do a lot of things. One of those versatile guys that you want on the bottom end of the roster. Yesterday, they had him have a random punt return rep after being the gunner, which he's not going to return punts in any situation. But the fact that they're even looking at him and giving him other looks tells you that they like what he's done. And then you had Slovis come in, dump it down, and then a pretty smooth job by Jawar Jordan of getting in space. And Jawar Jordan, another one of those running backs. I know people talk about the size, but he's had a pretty damn good he looks pretty good right now. We'll get to the offensive line in a sec. Some of y'all are asking about the offensive line. We'll get to that. First, there was a break, and then there were special teams drills. And the interesting observation here, in this combined 9-10 minutes, you had Nick Caley kind of hunched over with the quarterbacks around him, which made you think, okay, there's a real strong emphasis on whatever the hell they're going to try to do in team one. And Nick Caley's emphasizing it. Also talked to Mark Vandermeer during special teams one. I know we had some fun with Vandy yesterday with the rules about his rules about too early about Nick Chubb. But yeah, we talked to Mark Vandermeer, joked around. He's our guy. We know that. He's our guy, even though he was a little bit silly about that. That's our dude. Before we get to the team one breakdown, which I did find interesting, seemed like Nick Caley was really emphasizing this. I do got to talk about someone who's helping us go to West Virginia, Bob Tech. Shout out to Bobby. Bobby has been in the business for 45 years, keeping companies safe with all your safety needs. There's people who claim that they get it done. They don't. They charge you more. They use AI customer service. and they don't give a damn about the local community. They don't really give a damn about your safety, honestly. But at 409-744-8225, bobtac.com, they got you covered. They got the gloves. They got the FR coveralls, protective clothing, anything safety, whether you're on the dock, whether you're on the truck. If you have a company and there's something that you need safety-wise from every level all the way up to hydration, they got you covered. If you work around the house and you want to be safe, they got you covered. They got something for everyone, and they're going to deliver it for you free, and they're going to maintain the relationship that you want when it comes to running a business. So 409-744-8225. You can text that number. You can call it, and they got you covered. Shout out to Bob Tech. So let's get to Team 1 breakdown. And I said at the start of this, my biggest takeaway, I think the offensive line is shaped up. We know 4 out of the 5 starters, in my opinion. I think Robinson's your starting left tackle. That's how they lined up first team. I think that your left guard is Laken Tomlinson. Your center is where the competition is. It's either going to be Andrews or Patterson. Now, these were the only 2 guys who rotated first team reps. So this first offensive line that's been out there the last few days, the only differences they've been making is at center. Your right guard is Titus Howard, and your right tackle appears to be Ariante Ursary, although he is getting some work at left tackle. So I do wonder, like, if Cam Robinson couldn't go, do they move Ariante Ursary over to the left side and then move either Zach Thomas or Blake Fisher? Notice I said Zach Thomas or Blake Fisher because Zach Thomas appears to, I don't want to say be better, but he's performed better than Blake Fisher in camp. Blake Fisher got benched for the second time today during team drills for a false start. There's been some kind of low points. So I would be surprised if Blake Fisher were starting. And quite frankly, if push came to shove and they had to make a decision, like let's say hypothetically they had to decide between Thomas or Fisher, I think there would be a discussion had at the very least. Nick Caley does not seem pleased with Blake Fisher. Quite frankly, he shouldn't be. If he were pleased with what Blake Fisher has done, then that would be a pretty low bar. But I think the offensive line, you have one spot that's competing, and that is center. That's it. That's it. Patterson, Andrews. And I don't really have a strong opinion about either one of those guys as to who's doing much better. Maybe we'll get like some game situations, but I don't think there's like a huge drop off. Like I think I don't want to say you feel awesome about either one of those guys starting, but you don't feel terrible about it. There's not like some massive drop off when it comes to the drop off. On the soup, 320.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Don't get jacked. Go to Bob Tech. Yes, sir. That is a hell of a up. Don't get jacked. Go to Bob Tech. That was good. I should have thought of that. So we get to team 1. And we already laid out the offensive line, left to right. Right off the top, Nick Chubb kind of blown up at the line of scrimmage. Nothing really going down. Then you had a really good play by CJ Stroud. Jalen Petrie in at nickel. And after the traditional 3 linebackers and 7-on-7, Captain Kirk gets the best of him. And that just kind of happens.
Captain Kirk, can you save me? Captain Kirk, I want to have your baby.
CJ likes throwing to those dudes out of the slot, man. I'm telling you, you go back to Ohio State and then you look at like how he's looking right now. He likes to throw to the guy out of the slot, whether it's to the sidelines or whether it's across the middle. That's an area that he likes to play. So then Davis Mills comes in. The second offensive line, the same that it's been for the last couple of days. So you have Thomas on the left. Then you have Patterson at center, although he would go with the first team. Blake Fisher, right tackle. And then Ingram getting some looks. at guard. So it was the same offensive line that we've seen OL2. You had a dump off to Jawar Jordan. Davis Mills has done a really good job of getting rid of the pill whenever he's pressured. Davis Mills has had a hell of a camp, honestly. He's had a hell of a camp, and he held onto it perfectly, dumped it off to Jordan. Jordan got it in space. Then this was just perfect all around, minus maybe the play on the ball by the DB, but you had perfect coverage by Miles Bryant, a perfect throw by Davis Mills, and it was to the left corner of the sidelines, and a better catch by John Mechie. Now, Bryant probably could have turned his head around and maybe made a play on the ball a little bit better, but it's just a good job by John Mechie. And John Mechie, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this. John Mechie, I'm going to give him a dog of the day. I'm going to give him a dog of the day. He's done a good job recovering from that drop yesterday immediately. I don't anticipate him being on the squad, but he's looked good. So I'll give him a dog of the day. Then Mertz comes in. This was the first real flash, like extreme flash that we saw from Keontae Hamilton. So Keontae Hamilton blows the play up, and then he looks back at Juice Scruggs and says something. It's basically like, what? What's up? Like, we're coming or something like that. And then he goes back to the huddle. So the wrestler out of Rutgers, Keontae Hamilton, blows up a play, lets Juice Scruggs know about it. Then a perfect toss from Mertz to Watson. He really likes those flag routes. Then Stroud comes back in with the first offensive line. Quick little sideways pass to Nico. One of the QB whoobies for CJ Stroud. It was negated, though, by a procedure penalty. Then Nick Chubb gets 4 or 5 back after the penalty. One of those runs where I don't want to call it surprising, but it's kind of like the defense is letting you get the 5. Then Jalen Petrie goes up and kind of knocks the crap out of Jaden Higgins. Good job of trying to go up and get it by Higgins. But Jalen Petrie, just a better job knocking it out. All for nothing, though, because you had a false start on Cam Robinson, which didn't necessarily impact what those guys were doing on the side. Then you had a J.J. Taylor run. He gets kind of tripped up, looked like he might have had some space. Then Mills comes in. Hutch with a possible one-handed grab on the sidelines. Maybe not. And then you had a swarm sack. Keontae Hamilton again with some company. Sprinkle in a slant to Xavier Johnson in there. But one of the better showings by Keontae Hamilton, who had a hell of a day. On the Soupy, ESG Soccer.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Makes me so nervous that Mr. Second Rounder Fisher is buns. Who is scouting O-line? I don't know if he's buns. He hadn't been that good. I don't look. I don't know what to tell you about Blake Fisher. I think Zach Thomas might be better. Maybe they found something in Zach Thomas. I think Zach Thomas might be a better tackle than Blake Fisher. I don't know. I think Blake Fisher is going to get every opportunity. Maybe he can turn around. It's early in camp, but not great. Texan and Cali.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Has anyone asked CJ his thoughts on his favorite NBA player playing in H-Town now? I mean, that might be something that, like, I don't know. I could see maybe Chancellor asking that or something like that. I have not seen that at all. Mark Cruz asks, what's going on with Trent Brown? Nothing. I mean, I haven't even really noticed him out there. I did find out today that, courtesy of Casario by way of Sean Pendergast, that if you're on the PUP list, you can't be out there. So That's why Christian Harris is out there but not on the PUP list, and some of these other guys aren't. So I have no idea what's going on with him. I haven't laid eyes on him in a while. So your guess is as good as mine. So let's go to special teams. Special teams, this was a really interesting special teams period. So these are your guys that were originally with the first team covering the punt. You had D'Angelo Ross, Hanson, Stover, MJ Stewart, British Brooks, the deep snapper, Dylan Horton, EJ Speed, Jalen Reed, and Tremont Smith. So that was the coverage team number 1. Then you had Watson. Justin Watson came in, and he took a rep as the gunner downing punts where Ross usually is. And I think the versatility could impact someone like Ross or maybe a Goombawale because they have a lot of versatile players that are able to do a lot of things. But I just know they love D'Angelo Ross when it comes to special teams. So I mean, maybe they could probably keep him around. I don't think anyone's dying for him to be there. Damon Arnett had a funny moment today. So he is the gunner, and he runs down the sidelines perfect. He catches the ball at the 1 and then just takes the ball into the end zone. And even CJ Gardner-Johnson, some other guys are kind of laughing, and they're like, hey, man, you got to throw it in. But he did everything right, and then he did the one thing wrong. He just gave him a free 20 yards, pretty much. So that was a funny moment by Damon Arnett. Then you had Jalen Smith. He got a little rep on the side. He looked pretty good. But then the most athletic play of the day, and it was just so nonchalant. Kalen Bullock decides he's going to get a rep as a gunner. And Kalen Bullock runs about 60, 50 yards up the field, full speed, catches the ball at the 1 perfectly, like toes outside of the end zone, tosses it back before his feet hit, and people are just basically like mesmerized on the sidelines that it happened. I think he made it look so easy, and it was like so nonchalant and kind of a punter drill where this kind of went unnoticed, but it was just a freakish display of athleticism. You know how sometimes you just see something that they make look so easy that you're just like, how did he do that? Dude, there is no, like, you could not duplicate what he did and how perfect it was. It was so smooth and just so effortless. And it was almost just like a coaching instruction video from Kalen Bullock. Then you had a few more directional punts from Tommy Townsend, and he actually punted well today. Tommy Townsend's punting pretty good right now, especially directionally. So you had that. Now we're going to the Team 2 breakdown. The Team 2 breakdown was a little bit of meh. So they started out on the 1.5, 2 yard line. Right off the top, you had a false start on the right side. Could have been anyone. Then Nick Chubb with a run to about the 2. And then 3rd and 8, hell of a job by CJ Stroud. He finds Brevin Jordan across the middle. Would have been a first down. And that was it for CJ for that set of downs. So they converted on 3rd and 8. And once again, just like CJ's other big play, they found Petrie in coverage. Then another false start on the first play. This one on by Blake Fisher. Blake Fisher gets benched for the second time of training camp. They put someone else in there. I think it was Zach Thomas. Then you had a strong 2-yard run by Jawar Jordan, what you want when you're trying to get out of the end zone. Higgins for 18, back shoulder throw on Tremont Smith. Perfect toss by Davis Mills. Just really good execution by those two. Then you had a Dylan Horton sack, and quite frankly, Davis Mills would have gotten completely baptized had this been live. Like this was this was a kill shot. Like this is where Davis Mills is probably on step 3, and Dylan Horton's probably on step 3, and he's got those longer strides. So Davis Mills was still been moving backwards, and Dylan Horton would have just lifted him up into the goalpost. Hell, these days you might draw a flag with how bad that would have been. But that was an absolute kill shot. Then Mertz came in. Strong run by Woody Marks. Exactly what you want, getting it out of the end zone. Like Marks and Jordan, they look better than Chubb. I'm just telling you. Then you had a busted play. Maybe when the lights come on, something happens. Didn't happen last year, but whatever. Then you had a busted play and an awkward exchange. So Mertz goes back, looks like he might have tripped or something. Woody Marks looks like he might have tripped. They might be running this the wrong way. I don't know. Just kind of a fall down, and the defense is there. Then a quick out to Justin Watson. Then CJ Stroud comes out for the final time of the day. Jared Patterson, by the way, your starting center instead of Andrews. A play action to Dalton Schultz for 20 yards. It didn't impact Dalton Schultz versus the DB, but in a real game, Danielle Hunter gets a sack, probably a strip sack there, but he kind of let up and let him get the playoff, which are kind of like the multiple layers of practice plays. Then you had Nico Collins to the sideline. Kamari Lassiter was perfect. I mean, it was perfectly done by Kamari Lassiter. He was stride for stride. Perfect thump. Not too much of a tackle, but making his presence felt, what D'Amico wants. So you had that. Then you had pressure on the blind side and a really smart get rid of the ball by Stroud, and then he was done. And then you had Davis Mills in. You had a pass breakup by rookie Jalen Smith and a nice run by Taylor. And that's a wrap on day 6. On to day 7 before the off day and before the final touches before good old West Virginia. Good old West Virginia. Appreciate everyone for rolling through, by the way. We aren't leaving. But Strand asks, who has been the best offensive lineman so far in training camp? Jesus. The interior hasn't been bad. It really hasn't been bad. Now, it hasn't been great, but the interior hasn't been great. Like, no one's like awesome, but that's a hard question for me to answer. I would love to have an opinion on that. No one looks great, but I think the interior is good. Mr. Heisenberg says, not trying to sound delusional, but I think we have the best, defensive backfield in the league. Okay. I saw you said backfield, and I was like, all right, are you saying offensive backfield? Because that would be a little bit crazy. Let's hear from Cade Stover. Tight ends. Cade Stover was at the podium. I asked Cade Stover if there's anything he specifically wanted to work on this offseason. And I know he doesn't do anything except work out and farm, and there's no farms in Houston. I just asked him if he did anything this offseason fun. Here's what good old Farmer Cade had to say.
Is there anything you emphasized in the offseason that you specifically want to get better at?
Really, I just wanted to get, nothing like, I guess, directly. I guess there's just a lot overarching things that just kind of come together and make one, and that was really just to be consistent. I think last year flashes of good things and flashes of bad things, and I think this year my overarching goal was just to be consistent as can be every single play.
I know you said that you typically just go to the house and then to the facility. Did you get to do anything fun in the offseason?
No, I just go back to the farm, feed cows, work out, catch football, and do it again next day probably.
Feed cows, work out, rinse and repeat. Okay. I gotcha. Stover's just a very simple guy. I want to ask him next time, like, well, what do you do in Houston? And he's probably going to say nothing. Just go home, chill. You watch any TV? Why not? Maybe he's got like some plants in the backyard or something. I don't know. Who knows? Not those kind of plants.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the
I
streets.
mean, if he did, it'd be cooler, right? Lakin Tomlinson. I'm going to call him BLT. I know some people might take exception with this, but I'm going to call Lakin Tomlinson BLT. And that's just my own personal opinion. You can feel however you want to feel, but he is BLT to me. He is BLT to me, aka the better LT. The better LT. I like him for this offensive line room. He might not individually be a Pro Bowler. He might not have a brand. He might not be as respected as the former LT, but I like this vibe, and I think it's good for the offensive line. So from this point forward, he will be called BLT. And D'Amico Ryans loves him. We'll hear what D'Amico Ryans has to say about him. But I asked him, he was in San Francisco. San Francisco had to change the culture of their offensive line. Now, let's be fair. Trent Williams is not walking through that door, and he was a big part of it, and a big part of Lakin Tomlinson kind of turning the corner in his career. But he has been a part of an offensive line that kind of needed a culture shift. What is that like, and what do you bring to the table? Here's what BLT had to say.
Like in San Francisco, I know Trent arrived, kind of shifted the whole culture of the offensive line. What is it like coming into a situation where the offensive line gets all the attention and you're looked at as one of the guys that they kind of want to look to be one of the faces of the show?
I mean, obviously, coming here from the get-go, I've seen, where we wanted to be. I felt that from the players that had already been here, with Titus and Blake, they had a standard that they wanted for themselves and for the offensive line. And I felt it coming in. So just having from the get-go, and then just coming in here, working with everybody, having the vision that Coach Pop had for us, and being out here to work with the guys on the field, working with the defense, it's been great. And we're going to build chemistry every day, and we're going to keep working.
Yeah, I like what he's made of. I think he's just fascinating that he started every game since 2018 and has missed one game in his entire career. I think that's nuts to me. I mean, that's just really, really, really crazy. But I like this. I like the vibe. And if you read between the lines, they talk about how important it was for him to be here for OTAs. And they talk about, how much of a good mentor he is and professional and all that type of stuff. I mean, come on. Like that right there. Like if it's so important, then that kind of tells you all you need to know about how they felt about it in the past. It's right there for you, and they're saying it, and you can kind of see it. Now, are you going to see it on the field? I mean, I don't know. Like, are they going to be the worst offensive line in the league? Oh, welcome to last year. D'Amico Ryans after practice. Let's hear what D'Amico had to say. I asked him about Lakin Tomlinson. He also had a few other things to say, but let's hear from the head coach after day 6 as we approach day 7 and the trip to West Virginia. Aaron's going to ask an injury question. I want y'all to be body language experts here.
Is it kind of getting him just back into the football mode and kind of
Petrie is good. He's back out at practice. He's good. Same guy he's been. So nothing to report there.
I know you talked recently about Sheldon Rankins, but after not having him compete this year, why were y'all really interested in having him back?
I was really interested in getting Sheldon back just because knowing the type of player that he was when he was here, like the leadership that he provided. I think him and Will had a really great connection their first year together, and really wanted to keep Sheldon. So it was really tough seeing him go, leave us, go to Cincinnati. That was a tough one because we were really working hard to get him back. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but it's all about the right time, and it worked out this year, and so we're happy to have him back to our team.
He's brought in a lot of guys that are kind of like what D'Amico likes. Sheldon's one. Lakin Tomlinson, who I'll ask about in a sec, is one. There's another guy who's been here for a while. I'm going to shock y'all because I'm going to confess that I really want to see something from this guy. But let's hear some more from the head coach.
What are some of the improvements that you're seeing on the offensive side of the ball now that you all have had the pads on for 2 days?
You see it. things evening out more. When you put the pads on, defense kind of had the advantage there. Early on, we weren't in pass. Defense was making a lot of plays. And now just see things balancing themselves out. Offense is making plays daily. Our quarterbacks are doing a really nice job just placing the football in the right spot. And our receivers are making some really tough, contested catches. And that's what we want to be. We want to be a tough, physical football team. And you can't lose sight of that play on the outside from the receivers, the DBs, how those guys play. That's the makers of a really physical team. So Jaden Higgins, he stepped up, made some really nice catches. Noel Hutchinson has done a really good job this year playing physical, really doing a great job at the catch point as well. We got a lot of guys on the offensive side who are getting really better, and it really jumps out in that receiver room to me.
On the offensive line, Tomlinson, what does he bring, maybe not just on the field, but off the field as you try to improve the line coach?
And this is me asking about Tomlinson. Like, you can tell he loves him. Like, let's just listen. Like this, he does not mince words when it comes to what he's looking for and what he likes about him.
What Lakin brings to our team, off the field, it starts with his work ethic. I just remember him. He first came in our OTA, our OTA program. Just the way he worked, like he did a great job just establishing himself as a hard worker. And for guys just to watch him, Lakin, he didn't have to say much, but you just watch his actions, watch how he went about his work. And I think a lot of our younger guys can glean a lot from that. Like, man, this guy is about his business. He's been in the league over 10 years. Why does a guy like that stick around? It's going to start with the work ethic, especially at such a tough position that he plays up front in the interior offensive line. Like those guys, it's a very physical game up there. They take a pounding. Lakin does a great job of not only working hard, but also recovering the right way, taking care of his body the right way. So I think he can really help a lot of our guys when it comes to that area of the game off the field that no one sees, to allow you to be your best when you step out on the field. Lakin has excelled at that from the beginning of his career to now.
Nick Casario was on the radio this morning.
God, he loves him.
Steps being seen while Anderson take. Can you specify what those things were? What can you say about the development from year 2 to year 3 specifically?
Will has done a really good job of just taking his game to the next level. When it comes to his pass rush, I haven't seen a person that's more dialed in when it comes to like what moves he's trying to execute, right? Really, and not predetermined moves, but truly playing instinctive, playing off of what the offensive line is giving him, whether he needs to play speed to power, whether he needs to be a little more finesse, working the edge, right, working the inside. But he's just doing a really great job of really developing that pass rush repertoire. And him working with Coach Rod and working with Daniil, you see the growth, you see the improvement. I talk about Will all the time as that relentless player and what we represent as a Texan, but it's also he represents that part of that growth factor, and what I love to see from all of our guys. And you can see this year, I know he's going to be a much better pass rusher than he was last year, just because of the work that he's put in all throughout the offseason, and now in training camp is still growing each and every day. And I have to keep him away from a quarterback because he's getting a little too close.
He is for sure. And he's not wrong. Like, Will Anderson's going to be better this year, which is terrifying.
But he's doing a great job.
Along those lines with Eric Steele Jr., he's always looking to get better and work hard. What do you see from him as he tries to just continue to make specific improvements to his game?
Stingley, what I've seen from him throughout camp, Stingley is just consistent. He's quiet over there on the edge, and that's what it takes to be a really great corner. There shouldn't be a lot happening your way because a lot of people don't want to go your way. But him and Nico, they go at it every single day. Those two of our best guys, they match up against each other every rep. And that's good on good every single time. Those guys, they sharpen each other every time they're out here. So Sting has continued to be steady, picking up right where he left off.
It's not ideal to have a couple of your running backs out, but how beneficial is it to have these added reps for a new guy like Nick who's getting used to the system and your younger guys to get these reps?
In training camp, right, you never know what's going to happen. So as a player, my message is you have to be ready. When you do have the opportunity to get more reps, you have to take advantage of those reps. And you take advantage of them by, knowing what to do in the meetings and coming out on the field and being able to execute the right way. Nick has done that. Woody's done that. All the guys, Jawar, Dare, those guys have done a great job of just being ready to go. And those guys are getting a lot of reps. Hopefully those reps pay off as those guys see more throughout training camp. But the backs are doing a great job. Coach Danny Barrett, as always, he's continuing to do an outstanding job as our running backs coach. And I really love working with Danny, appreciate what he's done working with those guys.
Coach, as the first time play caller, what do you remember the first time you assumed that role, and then having that experience with Bobby and now going to Nick? How do you prepare for that being the first time you do it? And what do you remember? And how's that experience with Bobby help work? Because I would imagine there's nothing like calling it within game. Right?
As the first time play caller, it's like we talk about players, rookies, and their growth and development. It's the same with play callers. Like, you have to get reps. The only way to get better at something is you have to go out and do it. So for me, I try to do a really good job of putting guys in position, right? Different situations, different scenarios all throughout practice, right? Things that will come up in games. I try to make sure I'm putting those guys, through those situations. So when they see them, they can go back and they have a library of, hey, we were practicing on this day. I remember this situation. This is what I call. Hey, as you go in and look at practice, sometimes you look at it. Myself, you're always analyzing what you did. How can you be better? You analyze it. Hey, maybe I'll call something different here, or that would have worked. So it's always about self-evaluation as a play caller. Right? Nobody else may say anything to you, but you have to constantly be a hard critic on yourself as a play caller, knowing what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to get it done. And I'll continue to give the guys as many reps as possible to make sure they're ready to go come game time.
So given Nick's experience with tight end position, how do you feel that you've seen Cade and Dalton and Brevin kind of take that next jump forward and how they've kind of grown off of last season?
Hey, he likes the tight ends. If you speak D'Amico, you can tell when he really, really likes something and when he's just kind of being the player's coach that he is. He likes the tight ends.
Our tight ends, they've been really solid all camp. Jake has done a great job of coaching those guys up, just putting the pads on. I see guys just being on it, playing with their pads, playing physical, playing with great hand placement, the tight end position, starting there in the running game and how we're blocking at that position. And then you see the route detail and the route growth starting with Cade Stover. I've seen him develop a lot as a pass catcher running the routes. He's done a really great job at the top of his routes, executing the break points, getting open. Dalton has come back. He's done a great job of being the elite pass catcher that we expected him to be. And Brevin, his explosiveness, his play at the line of scrimmage, and when he gets the ball in his hands, like that entire group, they have a lot of different things that they do well. And you got 3-4 tight ends who can operate in that manner is going to help us. So not only Kaylee, but also Jake, as Coach Jake has done a great job with the tight end group.
So many physical players play physical on the defensive side of the ball. What is the message that you're giving them to maybe tone it down a little bit? Because, you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson with Mario Lassiter, playing a certain type of physical
Hardo time.
Style. How did you get them to dial it back just a little bit?
All right, the Texans are going to be a physical football team. That's what I believe in. And I don't like guys who don't play the game the right way, and that's being physical. Not only defensively, but offensively. Like, we're going to play backs running behind your pass, O-line, finishing at the second level. That's what I truly believe in. And so when we come out and practice, like, we are a team. We have to work together, right? It's just when we practice, there's just no cheap shot. We still want to play physical. We're going to play between the whistles, but we don't want guys, we just always talk about protecting the team, not taking a cheap shot, not going to the ground, and guys are smart enough and aware enough that they know how to practice the right way, which allows us to practice hard, but also practice in a safe manner.
After the last one, after the day, it seemed like starting line, they're always better against starting line. How do you kind of see the progression of starting offensive line?
The O-line, again, it's different guys have been in there. I think those guys are continuing to get better. And you see it's real football. You get to block guys with pads on. I think that's just real, and that's what you see. Our guys are doing a solid job, and they're continuing to get better.
Coach, it seems like Arnett is making a little bit of a case on special teams. That's some flashy plays. What do you see from him in the case of
Arnett he's taking his second chance, and he's running with it. Right, he's been dialed in since day one. Very grateful for the opportunity to be back in the NFL, and I'm happy to be in a position to give a guy a second chance. I think in life we all need more than second chances. It's just having another chance. If we all think back on our lives and things that happen, like you want the opportunity to have another chance at things, and he's doing a great job with it so far. All right, thank you guys.
All right, there you go. That's D'Amico Ryans. Day 6 concluded. So we'll see how this unfolds. But again, biggest takeaways: starting offensive line appears to be set, minus the center position. Could be wrong, but it does feel like 4 of the 5 are set. The running backs, I got to confess something. I'm going to confess this, and this has as much to do with what we're seeing from Nick Chubb as anything. I want to see Pierce. I want to see Pierce in this system. If they're just going to ask a running back without having to cut to just run as hard as he can behind the offensive line and try to pick up some tough earned yards, I want to see what Dameon Pierce looks like compared to Nick Chubb. And I'm hoping we get an opportunity in the next week, 2 weeks, whatever. It's been a long healing process to at least see that, because look, I in a perfect world, I would have liked to have proactively try to improve the running back position. But I don't think that Nick Chubb is currently better than Dameon Pierce, the Dameon Pierce that we've seen the last couple of years. And I would love to see what that looks like. And I'm more intrigued by Dameon Pierce now than I've been in the last couple of years. And I compare it to last year when Brevin Jordan went down and you watch Dalton Schultz play, and all of a sudden oh man, they really need Brevin Jordan. I want to see what Brevin Jordan has. That's kind of how I feel watching Nick Chubb with the possibility of Dameon Pierce. We know Mixon's going to be on this team. Woody Marks is probably going to be on this team. I don't know what they're going to do with Jawar Jordan, but I want to see Dameon Pierce. That's kind of the point that I've gotten to with watching what we're seeing from Nick Chubb. So that's just kind of where I'm at there. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to always remember, Killer X God says D'Amico is literally the definition of a player's coach. Yes, he is, literally and figuratively. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Reminder to like the damn video. Practice tomorrow at 9, SNL at 4. Be back for the 10:30. Keep learning stuff. We keep learning something new every day. Tomorrow will be no different. I promise you. And even if we don't, we're all in this together. Appreciate y'all for rolling through.
You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk.